Welcome to Meeting of the Moms, a place to talk about all the things. I'm Lorna Adams. I'm a wife, mom, and certified life coach. I think being with people makes anything a party. Thanks for coming to ours. I'm here with my good friend Amy. For years, we've spent the early morning hours running and talking together before diving into our days.
Hey, I'm Amy Rasmussen. I'm a teacher by profession, a wife and mother by choice, an optimist by nature, and happy by design. Here at Moms, we believe the world is wide open to all of us and that we have unlimited potential. We're so glad you're here.
Hey, Amy, how was Labor Day weekend? How'd it go?
Well, it went really well. We had talked about how I did a bunch of thinking about what it was that I really wanted because I'd mentioned camping and then things evolved. And then I sent a text to Nels about here's an idea of how to prioritize the weekend. So first of all, I had suggested that we prioritize time for us to go on a date. Like that's something I've wanted just our whole marriage, that's important to me. And it's something that we're getting better at currently. And so he had mentioned a date idea. And we went ahead and went to the Indian restaurant that he had mentioned that's 45 minutes away. So we had an hour and a half drive round trip, which is great for talking. And I like to talk. So that went really well. But that was fun and it was good. And he even came home like quite tired that day from work because he'd been driving all day too. And he's like, it's all right. I'm up for it. Let's go do it. And what was nice is it just set the tone for the rest of the weekend so that I wasn't, and neither one of us was like, okay, so are we still going to try and do something Saturday? Or with what we did for the family, are we going to try and, I don't know, go for a walk Sunday? Or do we want to try? I don't know. It just didn't, we weren't there where we're like, what are we going to do something that's just us? Because we did it first. So I thought that was great. And super funny thing that when we talked to the kids about it, one of my sons was like, that's perfect. We'll just have brother time and we'll make a plan. And they weren't like disappointed, like, oh, I thought we were going to do this. Instead, at least he was thrilled that we decided to go do something else.
I do love that whatever it is, we can decide to have a good attitude or to have a grumpy attitude. And
Right.
fun that child was it was easy to just have a good attitude about it. Like, yay,
Right.
now we're going to go play. We'll do our thing.
I know. I mean, parents are gone. We can do whatever the heck we want. So that was great.
And I do know that is totally how you run your household. Do whatever you want, kids. We're gone. Do whatever you want.
No, obviously it's not, since he was so excited that we were going to be gone. No, I'm just kidding. But I guess also just as a bonus thing, how fun to see that my boys want to spend time together at a time when they may very much have been like, okay, can we just do our own thing? And they didn't. We got home and they had decided to all sit down and play, I don't know, Mario Kart or something. So they were all down on the couch together. They made dinner together and they just spent the evening together. So
nice.
I don't know. I guess that was a bonus thing to celebrate, bonus win. So the second thing I wanted to prioritize was making sure that he and I both had some time to kind of do our personal things. I just have way more flexibility. And you know how this is, as we've chosen to be stay-at-home moms, we have discovered that one thing that comes from that is we do have a lot of flexibility. And especially as our kids have gotten older, but even at younger ages, there was flexibility there that isn't necessarily there for someone who has to be at work at a certain time and work for a certain number of hours and all that kind of stuff. And so one of my big priorities was that my husband get time, that Nels have unstructured time to go do what he wants. So he went and climbed and he was able to do his route, which was super awesome. And he got to hang out with friends and he spent the whole day and it was just open-ended. And I think that was super renewing for him, and even more renewing, this is my interpretation, even more renewing because I had said to him, why don't we prioritize your renewal before we figure out all this stuff we're doing for the family? So that was kind of cool that he loved that. And then you and I got to record on that Saturday. I also got to reorganize a space that will make life function a little bit better with my kids. So I just felt like that was good too. Yeah. But each of my boys had some stuff they did on Saturday too that made it so that for them, they were pleased that they got those things done, and it changed the rest of the weekend. So that was great. Sunday was just a pleasant day, like we talked about. Restful. I think we went on on a couple walks, and then as a family we drove over to check out the bike trail that we decided we wanted to do on Monday. So that was kind of like a bonus adventure to see, like, is this even doable? Because if it's doable, we have to take 2 cars, and we don't have like a bike rack or anything, so we have to do some weird loading of bikes. So it was going to be a pain. So we drove to look at it first to make sure it was worth the effort. It was. And it was fun that we did all that together too. And my husband and I went on 2 walks on Sunday, and it just was a pleasant day. One other thing I did that I hadn't talked about before is usually there's a meeting on Sunday, and I let them know I'm not coming to the meeting. It's not like I'm out of town, but we're just going to prioritize not today. It was a meeting for church. And then on Monday, we got to go do the things we talked about as a family. So we went and did the bike trail. That was great. We were able to support one of my sons who wanted to make sure to get a certain number of miles in for running for something that's important to him. Another son had an activity that night that was important for him to go to at like 6 o'clock. And so we're like, okay, how can we schedule the day to be able to support that? And so within the daytime part, we got to do our family things, and then also got to support those extra things, I guess, with the boys. So I guess just the whole thing, the whole package was cool, because I just felt calmer having gone into the whole situation intentionally, and also in a way that I communicated with the other people that were involved, because sometimes we go in with a lot of intention and not so much communication.
I totally
Which can be key.
Yeah, and I think we expect them to know, or we just, of course they know, like this is what it is. Where if
Yep.
we haven't actually shared it, how would they know? So I
Right.
think that's really great, right? Trying to
Right.
communicate with what your thoughts were and how you wanted
Yep.
it to go, and then be flexible. Sounds like a good weekend. That's great.
So I want to know, like, you had been sitting in a place of, you kind of designed your own weekend because it was a different kind of weekend. So are there any things you want to share about how it turned out, or how you would compare this particular weekend and your planning to times in the past, and how you would have done stuff?
Yeah. So I'm trying to remember all the details of the weekend. I should have thought through it a little bit more before.
We don't need every detail. It's okay. I gave you lots of
Okay.
details.
Well, I know, like on Saturday, I think when we were talking, my family was my boys, my husband and my son were watching a game. And then I feel like they might have even gone and golfed later that afternoon. And I can't remember for sure how that all played out, but I had volunteered to play a musical number on the piano for Sunday. Saturday afternoon, I spent some time at the practicing in my house, and then at the church to practice with their piano. And so I was ready for that. And then that afternoon, a daughter of mine texted and it was like, actually, I kind of want to come home. And so she actually,
It was the daughter in Brazil, right? And she just flew home. I'm just
yes,
kidding.
yes, it worked out perfectly. She just came home
Nice.
quick and then went back. But my daughter at BYU, school hadn't started yet, and she had done lots of playing the day before. It just worked out that she wanted to come home, and it was great. Like, we were flexible. We were happy to have her, and so she ended up coming home and was home for that musical number that I did, and then also my son he'd already been asked prior, but she didn't actually remember that. But he had also been asked to speak in church. And so she was able to be present for that. So that was just kind of a fun little bonus. And then we ended up going to my in-laws that afternoon, just being flexible. We ended up going to my in-laws in the afternoon that just live about 20 minutes away, spent time with them. And then on Monday, we decided, and I think it was Sunday night, that it was kind of decided, like, let's actually go out of town tomorrow. My husband needed to pick up some parts from a bigger supply store than what we have in town. And so we decided to go out of town on Monday morning. We went and saw a movie, and I actually really liked the movie. I don't normally endorse lots of movies. I really did. I would probably rank this a 4 out of 5. There was some language and a scene I didn't necessarily agree with, but the movie was F1. It was in the theater, and we really liked it. Kind of a fun one. And then as we were walking into the theater in this town that's an hour and a half away, my brother-in-law texted us and said, hey, we're doing a birthday party for his wife, my sister, at 2:00. And so it just worked out perfectly that we were in the area at the right time to do our movie, to go to lunch with them and get my husband's things and come home so he could work on his project.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, it just all worked super, like, perfectly, I would say, for that day. Like, I hadn't anticipated what it would actually look like. I was trying to stay open to whatever, and it actually worked out really well. So kind of fun when things work out like that too, right? They don't always, but it just worked out. There's lots of times that we miss family things because we are an hour and a half away. Even if they tell us ahead of time, sometimes we're still missing them because it's not always convenient to go. But it just worked out that all of those things fell into place. And so anyway, it worked out being great. And I will say, like I think I've said before too, our weekends, whether holiday weekends or other weekends, they don't always work out perfectly like that. But this one just happened to work out so well. And it's nice to have some of these weekends and then be able to have those other weekends and maybe kind of recalibrate into like, okay, and I can still be flexible with this weekend too. It doesn't have to go the way I want it, or it's okay if things don't turn out how I'm hoping.
Well, I think the thing I'm thinking is I went into the weekend with a lot of intention as far as, okay, let's prioritize this and then this and still have some like communication and whatever. And you went into the weekend with the intention of like, all right, it's going to be kind of flexible, not a big group, right? And so the intention was there for both of us. One was a little more structured. The other was a little more flexible. But to a certain extent, we both went in with the intention to find a way to have it be great, right? Whatever came would be great. And I would say, as I'm telling you that the weekend was great, on Sunday when we went and checked out the bike path, it's just between one town and another. So we just drove there. We drove where the path was, and then we just went on a little walk as a family. And my boys were at a place that they wanted to be like poking at each other and like teasing each other and giving each other flat tires and all those kinds of things. I'm like, this is not the pleasant walk I pictured, right? But until I started thinking about it more, that's not what stood out in my mind from the weekend. It was the whole package deal and the fact that we had prioritized and we had some fun and all that kind of stuff. So I love that by prioritizing the flexibility and the fact that you're like, all right, it's going to be different. We're just going to see what happens. So many good things happened. Whereas if you had been sitting in a place of, I wish everyone were just home and I'm disappointed that they're going to go watch whatever football when I don't want to watch it and they're going golfing and I'm not going to participate, then it probably also would have kind of like numbed the joy of all those other things working out. But you're already in a place to just like accept it and have it be awesome. And it's okay for us to feel sad and disappointed. It's not like it's not. But we also have those things where we can shift and not have to just stay there, right?
Totally.
So anyway, that's what I was saying. Just how cool that all of those things kind of came and that you were open to them. And so it worked out.
And more transparency too, after talking it through with you right now, there were a few different little tiffs throughout the weekend that things didn't go like people wanted or had hoped, or we were misunderstood or whatever. And so even that, there's still realness, right? We're still humans interacting, trying to help each other, trying to hang out, whatever. And so I think that's also part of life for all of us. There's going to be those situations that don't feel so pleasant, and we can still try to go into them with maybe some love and compassion and not sit in that resentment or frustration or orneriness that I have in the past. I have totally spent lots of time feeling super frustrated and annoyed, and I'm at a better place now where I can feel frustrated or annoyed, and I can kind of sit with that and let it go and then move on. It's not always so quick, but I do have a little more awareness as I've tried to slow down my brain, kind of pay more attention to how I'm feeling, and go from there.
Thanks for coming to Meeting of the Moms. We hope it made your load a little lighter. We'd love to hear what's on your mind. Send your celebrations, takeaways, and suggestions for future topics to momswithamyandlorna@gmail.com.
If you enjoyed the show, please like, share, and subscribe. If this isn't the right fit for you, we wish you well on your journey. Until next time, I'm Lorna Adams.
And I'm Amy Rasmussen. See you next week at Moms.